So I left off the last video with me whining and grunting about the fact that I wasn't able to shoot because it's Saturday night and it got too late and stuff got out of line and went too far, and I had to go up and act like an adult human being, which I'm relatively good at, even though I might not show it here so much. Anyway, went up and enjoyed the evening with my family, my wife. But I couldn't let it go. I want to break this. Glue joint. I want to test this glue joint. I left you hanging. I yanked and jerked on this glue joint, and I couldn't get it to pop. And so I'm going to reiterate. I'm going to go back through and I get sick and tired of making these things, so I buy them. These are for backing up muzzle brakes. Muzzle brakes are a problem. Remember, this whole channel, this whole show, this whole thing is about controlling vibrations and the ways that I've come up with to do it. Whether it's an agree, disagree, doesn't matter to me. The simple fact is that these are things I've done. The barrel joint, 150 pound, 250 foot-pounds. That being, the barrel joint being right here. That's why this has got a 2-inch diameter. But also out here on the end, see that muzzle brake? See how it's affixed with a whole big wad of screws and bolts on it? Ugly, but that's not a problem. I can make them cleaner, I can thread them, but it's on there tight because vibration. So that was my excuse for coming down tonight. It was to bring down those little collars, threaded collars that I buy. I use those on conventional muzzle brakes. Some muzzle brakes you can get a big abutting shoulder and still have an attractive looking thing. But here's my problem. I believe, I don't have a barrel laying here, but they're all in the rack. I don't want to go around and get one. Let's say this is a barrel right here. I believe that if I cut down the major diameter of this barrel a lot, enough to make a big shoulder, that the barrel actually swells at the muzzle. I know all the BS about, oh, cut rifling doesn't do that, and only button rifle barrels do that, and forget all about that. That's just bullshit. Bottom line is, you take a tube and you put a hole through it, stresses or no stresses. It has hoop stresses by dint of it being a forged piece of something. You relieve out here. If you ever lap barrels, you can go out here in the middle and run a lap through, and you can put your hand on it and the lap will loosen up. By the same token, you go turn out a section of barrel for whatever reason. I saw one time where I tested a factory barrel that had a dovetail cut in it and a belt on a bulge, and you could feel the bulge, whether it was tighter actually, but basically the bulge that the dovetail sat on a factory barrel, when you ran a slug through it, you could feel a constriction there. So I believe that, forget about cut or button, a piece of steel with a hole through it. Where I'm going with this is, because of the fact that I don't like to cut down a muzzle brake and make a big abutting shoulder, and somewhere in the middle you get what seems to be enough of an abutting shoulder, but then when you tighten it down, I tighten it down to 75 foot-pounds or something that I think is going to lock it up. First of all, I try to get bearing up here. I try to get more bearing than that. Tighten it down. Try to get it so it can't shake, rattle, and roll. And I've actually had a few of them that distort. So I buy those so that I can get a 3-point system, thread back far enough, put that thing on there, put a back locking collar, lock again, lock again. Long story short, that talked me into coming down here to test my glue joint. We're going to break this glue joint. This is just simply an add-on video. And to reiterate, what this is about is the fact that I'm cheap. This billet, I always wanted and intended in the end to have a 5-inch wide beaver tail on the front, unless I could get it to shoot otherwise. Because this billet, while it can be used for hunting and those parts are removable, should also compete, should also be able to be set up into a bag setup and shot to 1,000 yards. One of the competitions that's fairly prevalent around here is Rattlesnake Ridge out in the Tri-Cities, 1,000 yard. There's actually 3,000 yard venues within reasonable driving distance of me. I'm sorry, 1,000 yard 50 BMG. 50 BMG is kind of a bit of a thing. I've never done it. I've never competed, never even thought, but I think it would be cool. And in the meantime, I'm using these 50 BMGs just to blow up the problems, just to illustrate things that are hard to find because they get lost in the noise. On any given day, it's hard to find out if a PPC is shooting to its capacity or not, because even a poorly shooting PPC is incredibly precise. And frankly, I've shot a lot of round holes that will essentially hold a bullet, but they're always luck. They're not luck. They're always a day when it works. I've had like 5 days and guns in tune in my life when a gun is shooting so good that I have to pull one out just to find out if my bullets are blowing up. And when that happens, it's like a little piece of magic. But suffice it to say, with the 50 BMG, the problems show up. They show up big and they show up bad and they show up hard. As I'm saying, I'm cheap. I just spent $700 today on enough aluminum to make, it's doing it again, enough stainless steel to make 4 muzzle brakes. It's like $125 a piece per muzzle brake just to get the piece of 416 stainless to make the stupid thing out of. Well, aluminum's not cheap either. And to get a billet that's 5 inches wide and 7 or 8 inches deep, I priced these out. I'd like it to come up, it needs to be, let's just say you need a 6x8 piece of aluminum 4 feet long to make one of these stocks. That's $1,000. So I'm piecing these together with hardware store aluminum, hence the multiple pieces. This is a 2-inch billet. There's a break point at 2 inch. I don't know why. This is a 2x4 piece that I got for, let's say, $125 or something, to make the main center line of the stock. Then this is 1/4 inch by 3 inch plate that I can just mill to size. And then these end pieces, which are hard to get a contour on because I got them all rounded off, I believe they're 1 1/4 inch, yeah, they're 1 1/4 inch wide by 1 inch thick. So we've got a joint right here, we've got another joint right here, we got a block, and we got a joint, we got a joint. Just in the interest of saving money, I got these hardware store pieces cost me $30-40. You know, buy a block, a stick of this, commonly available, stick of this, commonly available. I buy them in 20-foot lengths, I keep them in my steel pile. And I piece it. Now, the problem, of course, comes down to the fact that the first one of these that I built was not even a 50 BMG, it was something else. And I epoxied it all together and the epoxy shot loose. On this stock right here, I've epoxied, before these joints were on, I epoxied this thinner 1/4 inch piece on and shot it loose twice. I haven't even bothered to epoxy this on yet, knowing that just presuming that it wasn't going to hold. So as I said in the last video, and I've said before, I put a post on the internet and said, hey, what do you guys know? Somebody help me out about affixing aluminum to aluminum. And a guy posted another kind of adhesive. I have tried 5 adhesives and I had one left on the list that I was going to try until this 3M 5200 came up. Well, the first time I tested it, I guess, before I put this thing down, what I'm attempting to do is make these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces, which makes 4 joints, act in concert as a single billet. Now I know that that's impossible. It's not going to ever have the strength of a solid billet, but if I can get it to just not shoot the joints loose, that would mean a lot to me. And I think I have a chance of this newest stuff actually doing that. this stuff is fantastic. Now, I put it away because I wasn't going to show it again, but I realized a video needs to be kind of a standalone thing. So, what I'm testing here is this Fast Cure 5200. It's really easy for me to get wrapped up in the linearity of this thing. Yeah, I told you a bunch of information earlier tonight, and now here it is, 4 hours later. I went in and did my family stuff, and it's almost midnight, and I just couldn't stand it. I had to come break this piece. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's how you're going to see this, is in order and in whatever and in sequence. I'm going to release them the same day to YouTube, but all bets are off after that. Somebody might just click on it for whatever reason. So this is a test, and I just took a couple of pieces of junk, not junk, no steel or aluminum or stainless steel is junk, but I took some pieces of failed past or past projects. You'll notice that this one has holes and it's a piece of something else, and this one has, I remember what, anyway, none of that matters. I overlapped them, just eyeballed them and clamped them. This is 2-inch wide by 1/2 inch thick. This is 2-inch wide by 1 inch thick. I overlapped them about 2 3/4 inches. And now I'm going to break them. The first time I just squirted a dollop into the and clamped it, and then I broke it when it was not completely hard. And the dollop was big enough that it kind of squeezed out the edge, but it had gaps. And I was so impressed, I said, okay. I actually shortened the joint a little. You can see some of the old glue joint is here. I made a shorter joint, under 3 inches by 2 inches. But this time I coated nicely, and I clamped it, and I let it sit for, it's been 2.5 days now, maybe 3. Now, we're going to go over here. I was going to construct this whole big test apparatus, this regimen, and I decided, screw that. Life is short, then you die. So, I'm going to stand on a bathroom scale, get my 250 pounds going, and then start lifting on this thing and see when it breaks. And I'm going to be, from here to here is about 8 inches. So do the math. I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to start going. And when it breaks, I'm going to check the poundage on the scale. Oh wait, this isn't working so good. This scale is not incremental. Oh crap. Well, I'm just going to guess at it then. I picked this up earlier, and this end of this bench is over 200 pounds. I know that for a fact. I pick weight every day. It should hold. So I'm going to take a guess here. I lift a lot of panels. I'm in construction. I'm just going to take a guess at what it takes to break this loose. I'll put that at 100. And it's a little bit rubbery. Miles better than epoxy, let me say that. Miles better. Now whether this cures to something harder or not, I'm not sure. Because this is, but it held, and it also has a little elasticity, so I think I'm going to take this gun out. And shoot it just with bolted together rails and see if it's acceptable. And if it is, then I'm going to go ahead and inset all of these bolts, chow this out for weight, use this material right here, and glue this together and see if I can get these to not delaminate, so that this weighted area here it acts both as a weight, a counterweight to the barrel for my tuning fork idea, and it also acts as a stability, which that cuts 2 ways, by the way. If this is flexing around at all, the fact that it's going to torque like this and ride up on this side rail could just make the gun bounce if this is flexy. So I want to make this stiff. I broke that piece, and I'm just going to stick with my 100-pound figure because I lift 100 pounds a lot of times. I carry forms, and well, I don't have to tell you why I lift 100 pounds. I don't work out. I just carry things around and have a good idea. So that was about 100, and it was 8 inches. So it probably took 70 or 80 foot-pounds to break that joint loose. To me, that was affixed better than any other adhesive that I've been able to find. And it might well be that I'm going to end up adhesiving this together with that product, because at one point I must make this gun shoot, or else I have to hang my head in shame and admit defeat, which I've done enough times in the past that I'm going to try real hard not to do it again. No, it has nothing to do with that. It's the journey, it's the learning. I'm just being cocky and saying I think I can make it shoot. Sooner or later I'm going to make this thing work. So, thanks for watching me break my piece, and that was it for the add-on video.